So I played the Chrono Beta for about 30 hours this weekend, and I have to say, we need to stop glazing games. I'm going to critique the game a lot in this video, but I'm doing this because I actually want to give the devs valuable feedback, because I want the game to succeed. Before we start, let me just say, I don't care if they already have a newer version and the version we played was old. There's probably a good reason why we didn't get to play the latest version. Maybe it's not stable or whatever. This is the only version that kind of works and they can share. So based on this version, we give our critique. Of course, they should have never shared this version with the public in the first place, but that's a completely different story. And lastly, I don't care if they have a small team or a limited budget. As a gamer, I only care about the product I get in the end, the game I can actually play. They want to create an MMORPG? Then they get feedback based on that. If you don't have the budget, the team size or experience, then maybe you shouldn't try to make an MMORPG. Okay, now let's start with the feedback. Starting with the character creation. Like in most Unreal Engine 5 games, it's pretty good. But you for sure shouldn't be able to create mini Hulks and Smurfs. It just kills the immersion. And the Boobas liner is for sure not impactful enough. Speaking of Unreal Engine 5, let's talk about the graphics. First, we saw gameplay footage like this. Then we got the IGN gameplay trailer, which also looked really good. And in the end, we actually went into the game and saw this. Yes, the game can look beautiful in certain moments, but there are way too many objects in the world with super low texture quality. And then we have of course really bad lighting, making the game either look too dark, too bright, or just completely mushy. Shadows often look terrible too. And all of this is especially noticeable in the open world. Additionally, for the game to actually look decent for a new MMORPG from 2025, you need to have at least all settings on Epic or better on Cinematic. But playing on Cinematic just wasn't possible because the performance was really bad, especially when it rains. And if you turn the graphics to medium, the game honestly looks just bad. Now let's talk about animations. Walking, climbing and riding look so scuffed, and it's not just the inertia, which also feels bad and should probably be removed. I'm talking about the actual animations when you are walking, riding, crouching or climbing. How your character interacts with the world just is not in sync. I'm not a developer, but if World of Warcraft managed this in 2004, you have to deliver on that in 2025. No excuses. Then we have combat animations. From your own character, everything looks pretty good. But I personally, and this is really subjective, I think all the ranger abilities look way too lame. They need for sure some love. The swordsman abilities are okay, but some abilities are just hard to visually distinguish from each other, which I personally don't like. But the animations from the Berserker already look pretty good though. Monster animations, however, are super scuffed. Bosses glide across the map, teleport short distances randomly, do weird moves that makes absolutely no sense. A lot of work is for sure needed here. Now let's talk about combat. Now this is supposed to be a Souls-like game with 8 active abilities from your weapons, 4 from your class, the Chronotector, a special ability and your light attacks. And as long as you don't have good gear, the game feels like a proper Souls-like. You always have to wait for your opening to attack and dodge constantly, which actually feels really good. But for this Souls-like combat style, as a melee player, you just have way too many abilities. You really can't use all of those abilities because the window for attacks is way too short, especially since you have to build up rage to even use those abilities. But then once you have better gear, the game starts feeling more like a New World combat on steroids. Just fast-paced action combat with a dodge roll. You don't need to dodge everything anymore and can kinda button smash your way through everything. But then again, with that many abilities, it actually starts to make more sense. I'm not sure if this is intended or what the actual goal is here. Other than that, for me the hit feedback from all range weapons is really bad. You simply don't feel the impact of your attacks, which is really important, I think. Then arrows stop dealing damage after a certain distance, which just feels off. They simply disappear after 10 meters or so. And I think melee weapons could use a bit more range, and I think in general it just feels bad that you can't cancel your animations. So the last thing about the combat, the AI of most monsters is just awful. Bosses are fine, but monsters in the open world, I feel like they are just completely lost. Now let's talk about the classes. I'm not a big fan of the dual weapon system, but that's of course totally subjective. but I really think that there aren't enough options per class. For example, I played the swordsman for the most part, and I really liked the dual blades because of the fast playstyle. But as a secondary weapon, I only had the options for a tanky weapon or a really slow weapon, and I don't want either. I think most people like to play two weapons that actually match in style. A lot of people play the twin axes plus the chain blades. Why? Because they match in playstyle. But in general, I have to say that the weapon swapping felt really good. Then each weapon comes with its own skill tree. You have 8 different abilities and 7 passives to choose from. That's way too lame. At least do it like New World. You have 2 specialization with an ultimate point that really defines your playstyle. I think it's just really important to have a lot of individuality in your character, because otherwise every class will feel exactly the same in the late game. Also, the overall class design was only really good for the Berserker. For example, the best way to play the Swordsman was just to use SNS buffs on yourself and then spend most of the time on your dual blades. You swap back sometimes to trigger a passive or buff yourself again, but that's it. There is no real reason to stay on SNS. I just deal way more damage on dual blades. The classes just need a lot more work. Oh boy, now we have to talk about the UI. I know this game is designed to be controller friendly, but it plays like a console game. It really feels like it was made for console and then just brought to PC. If the main audience is console players, then it's probably fine. But for a PC gamer, this is just not acceptable. Everything always opens in full screen. You just want to see how many resources you have gathered? Boom, full screen. You want to check where you are on the map? Boom, full screen. Quests? Boom, full screen. It's so annoying. Here's a good example. Sometimes you're searching for a quest item or a bounty in an area, and you have to keep checking if you are still in this right area. So you constantly have to open the map again, which always takes up the whole screen. It's really bad. Also, we should have a minimap. It can be optional, but there is no reason to not have one. I think they stated that the reason was it kills the immersion. But opening the map all the time breaks the immersion even more. Then you also can't hover over items on the map. You always have to click on them. Creating a party is way too complicated. Even simple stuff like leaving a dungeon isn't intuitive. Someone even asked me how to leave one. Isn't that crazy? Honestly, I could talk about the UI for 20 minutes. It's just all made for controller players. I'm just giving my feedback. As a PC gamer, this is not acceptable. Same as when you have a mobile PC cross game, you always can tell it's designed for mobile. Same thing here, just with console. Now let's talk about the content and leveling experience so far. It's a sandbox MMORPG and it's been praised for letting you do whatever you want. So let's look at the options. First, Chrono Gates. The first one you do is actually really good. Probably the most fun I had in the 30 hours I played. It took me maybe 40 minutes as a level 3 swordsman. It was a challenge, but it was super fun. But all the other Chrono Gates were actually pretty lame. That had something to do with the design of the fights, but also because I had good gear already. I feel like the Chrono Gates should scale with your strength. Otherwise they just become way too easy. Then we have of course quests. They were just really boring and sometimes it was even hard to figure out what you are even supposed to do. If you don't want to mark us the exact location on the map, I get that, that's totally fine. But then give us more info or at least a hint in the quest text. We get basically nothing there. Bounties are also sometimes really hard to find. You always have to open your map to check if you are still in the area and then look around. Go a little bit further, check if you are still in the area and look around. Just super annoying. Also, I started doing them at level 11. And those mini bosses were just way too easy. Again, I feel like they should scale with your strength. Time portals need a complete rework. Super boring, I don't even know what to say. Just really boring. Solo dungeons are fine, but also kinda boring. And what is really annoying is that if you die, you have to start the whole labyrinth from the beginning again. There should be some checkpoints. It's not fun enough to restart every time from the beginning. Trials are actually fun, I like them, but again, should probably scale with your strength again. Then of course you have exploration. Honestly, the world feels pretty empty. Low monster density and a lot of places just feel sad because there's nothing there. And finally we have gathering and crafting. We will get to that in more details in a second. But first, some general feedback on the sandbox approach. They've said multiple times that you can do whatever you want in Chrono to level up and progress your character. And honestly, I didn't feel that way. Did you try leveling through gathering and crafting? I did. It takes forever. Right now, you basically have to do all the available content to level and progress your character in a reasonable pace. All the praise about you can do whatever you want, it's not true at the moment. But I would still love to see it becoming true. Now, about gathering and crafting. It's overall similar to New World, but from my perspective, way worse. Let's start with gathering. So what makes gathering so good in New World? The sound of hitting a rock with a pickaxe or of swinging an axe against a tree. You just don't feel that in Chrono. Not sure why, but something is missing. Also, I'm not sure what leveling up your gathering professions even gives you. Some nice descriptions would be nice. And then I also have a big concern about bots in this game. As mentioned, monster density in the world is super low and all the resources are unprotected. That means there will be so many bots and people using mouse scripts to farm resources all day. Just a major concern I have. But maybe there is already a solution. Crafting in Chrono feels like a less complex, more casual friendly version of New World. If that's the target audience, then that's fine. But again, no idea what benefits I get from leveling my life skills. Then it seems like you don't use lower tier materials for higher tier crafts. That means most resources will become useless in the late game. For example, no one will need iron ore anymore. Sure, that simplifies things, but there's a reason games like Albion Online or New World try to reuse lower tier materials. Then crafting has way too much randomness. It was a problem in New World and here it's the same. Random gear score, random attributes and random traits. And each basic trait has 4 variants. It can be a monster, a boss, a PvP or a neutral trait. And there are gathering traits too. The amount of randomness is ridiculous. People complained about this forever in New World. Learn from their mistakes, remove the randomness. And yes, you can transfer some perks, but only the special ones. And that's just not enough. Also, if you want to make a PvE focused game, why even have PvP traits? That makes no sense to me. And because of all the randomness, I already know I won't want to use my enhancement materials in the late game. I want the perfect roll first, which of course will take forever to get. Nothing about the system makes sense right now. It's a little bit newer, but with some new systems that don't really fit yet. There's just so much work to do. One final thing. There are not enough filters in the auction house. It's impossible to find what you actually need. But that's about it. I probably missed a few things. If so, let me know in the comments. I know that's a lot, but the game is just far from being finished. There's not one system or piece of content that it's actually good in its current state. The game just needs way more time. It doesn't matter if it's supposed to release end of 2025, it should take all the time it needs. If they are being forced to release it early because of budget problems, the game won't last. MMORPGs are expensive and take time to develop. Good class design, good systems, good content. It all takes time and tons of playtesting. And based on the videos we've seen from the playtester group, the feedback was probably way too positive. This version should never have been public. Based on the feedback, they should have delayed the closed beta and probably also the release. Or at least label this version as an alpha version. Nevertheless, I hope they take my feedback seriously and fix a lot of stuff. But please don't release this game this year. If you like the content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see ya in the next one.